An archer pulled back his bow and released into the battle. He had not chosen a king as his target. King Ahab of Israel had entered the fight in disguise. But the arrow found a small gap in his armor. His plan had hidden him from enemy soldiers, but it could not hide him from what came next. Before that battle, Ahab had heard exactly what might happen. This happened after the land of Israel had split into two kingdoms. Ahab ruled the northern kingdom, still called Israel. Jehoshaphat ruled Judah in the south. The two kings had joined forces, and Ahab wanted Jehoshaphat's help in a war. The target was a city called Ramoth-Gilead. Ahab said it belonged to Israel, but Aram still held it. After 3 years without war between them, he was ready to take it back. Jehoshaphat agreed to stand with him. His people and horses would join Ahab's. But before they marched, he asked Ahab to find out what the Lord wanted them to do. Ahab gathered about 400 prophets and asked a simple question. Should he attack Ramoth-Gilead, or should he stay home? Their answer filled the court with confidence. Go. The city will be handed to the king. They promised victory. But Jehoshaphat was not satisfied. He asked if there was another prophet of the Lord they could ask. Ahab knew exactly who was missing. There is one more man, he told Jehoshaphat. His name is Micaiah. Then Ahab admitted why he had not called him. He hated Micaiah because Micaiah never seemed to have anything good to say about him. That one sentence tells us almost everything about the room Micaiah was about to enter. The king knew him. The king knew what kind of answer he usually gave. And before Micaiah arrived, Ahab had already heard the answer he wanted from hundreds of other voices. The two kings sat in royal robes near the entrance of Samaria's gate. The prophets spoke before them. One prophet, a man named Zedekiah, had made horns of iron. He used them to act out the promised victory, saying Ahab would drive back his enemies. The message was not quiet. Everyone could see it. Everyone could hear it. Almost every voice was saying the same thing. Meanwhile, the man sent for Micaiah was bringing him toward the court. On the way, he gave Micaiah some advice. Every other prophet had given the king a good answer, he said. Make your words agree with theirs. Say something good. Micaiah was not being asked only for an answer. He was being asked to make every voice sound the same. His answer was brief. He would say only what the Lord gave him to say. Then he entered the royal court. Ahab asked him the same question he had asked the others. Should they go to war at Ramoth-Gilead, or should they stay home? At first, Micaiah gave him the answer, already echoing through the room. Go and succeed. The city will be handed to the king. The text does not tell us how Micaiah sounded, but Ahab did not accept the words. He demanded that Micaiah tell him the truth. That is the first surprise in the story. Ahab hears the answer he says he wants, but he knows something is wrong. For one moment, the king who filled the room with agreement asks the one unwanted voice to tell him the truth. So Micaiah does. He says he saw the people of Israel spread across the mountains like sheep without a shepherd. Their leader would be gone. The people would return home without him. Ahab turns to Jehoshaphat as if the warning proves his complaint. This is what he expected from Micaiah, nothing good, only disaster. But Micaiah is not finished. Micaiah then tells the court about a vision. In it, the Lord sits on a throne with the army of heaven around him. The question is how Ahab will be led into the battle where he will fall. A spirit offers to make Ahab's prophets speak a false message. Micaiah says, this is why the room is full of promises of victory. This is one of the hardest parts of the story. It raises big questions about God, the Spirit, and the prophets, but the story does not answer all of them. What matters in that room is Micaiah's warning. The voices promising victory are not keeping Ahab safe. They are leading him toward danger. The room turns against the messenger, not the message. One prophet, Zedekiah, steps forward and strikes Micaiah across the face. He demands to know why Micaiah thinks the Spirit spoke through him instead of through the others. Ahab now shows who holds the power. He orders Micaiah taken back to the city officials and put in prison. Micaiah is to receive only bread and water until the king returns safely, until I return in peace. Ahab speaks as if coming home is already certain. Micaiah answers with the only test that now matters. If Ahab returns safely, then the Lord has not spoken through him. He calls everyone present to remember what was said. And that is all Micaiah can do. He has not changed the king's mind. He has not defeated the 400 voices. He has not escaped the cost. But now, the warning has been spoken in front of Ahab and the entire court. Then Ahab goes to war. Ahab has heard the warning, but he does not change his plan. He changes only how he enters the battle. Ahab disguises himself while Jehoshaphat goes out wearing royal robes. The story does not tell us exactly what Ahab hoped the disguise would do, but on the battlefield, we soon see why it could help him. The enemy king had ordered his chariot leaders to look for one man, the king of Israel. When they saw Jehoshaphat in royal clothing, they moved toward him. For a dangerous moment, Ahab's friend looked like the man they had been ordered to attack. Jehoshaphat cried out. The enemy leaders realized he was not the king of Israel, and they turned away. The disguise appeared to work. The enemy soldiers had searched for Ahab and failed to find him. No one had reached the hidden king. The warning might have seemed far away now, locked behind a prison door in Samaria. Then an unnamed archer drew his bow. He released without choosing Ahab as his target. The arrow flew through the battle and struck a gap in Ahab's armor. The arrow had done enough. Ahab told his chariot driver to turn and carry him out of the fighting. But the battle grew worse, and getting away was no longer simple. So Ahab remained in his chariot, held upright, while the battle continued around him. The hours passed. The king who had entered without looking like a king stayed there until sunset. Then Ahab died. The army was told to return home. The war that had begun with hundreds of voices promising victory ended with Israel going back without its shepherd, exactly as Micaiah had warned. Micaiah did not cause the arrow. He did not control the battle, and he could not force Ahab to listen. His choice was to speak the truth in that room, even when the king chose to walk away from it. The warning could not choose for Ahab. It could only make his choice clear. Ahab asked for another voice. He even demanded the truth from that voice. But when the truth stood in the way of his plan, he changed his clothes instead of changing his decision. The one prophet Ahab refused to hear had warned him before his final battle. The warning did not stop the king, but Ahab could never say that no one had warned him. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Scripture Crossroads for more biblical stories about the choices that changed everything.